All right, everybody. The doors of nature's laboratory are open again, and I just cannot wait to see what we're going to discover in its treasure house today. With that being said, I am delighted at this time to turn it over now to our hostess, Mrs. Nellie J. Moore.
Good evening, everybody. I hope you had a great day today, and I'm hoping you learned something really new tonight.
Amen.
So, before we go any further, I'm going to ask my assistant, Annette Furby, if she would give us our welcome.
Okay, we're
You're
missing
muted.
all of that wonderful welcome, Sister Annette. All
Good
right.
evening.
Good
I was
evening.
muted. Good evening, everyone. We're so happy and excited to have you join us this evening. Our seminar is on nature's pharmacy, foods and plants that heal, discovering the restorative, regenerating, and prevention of natural remedies, the power of natural remedies. So sit back and enjoy.
Thank you so
Thank you so much for that enthusiastic welcome. And we're going to go right into our quiz. Quiz Master, where are you?
I am here,
Good.
and as it would have it, for some reason, Pastor Ferguson,
Yes.
my quiz is not coming up,
Okay.
but that's okay. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry about that.
Right.
Let me see. Sorry. Let's see what happened here. And close that. And all right, this is what we're going to do. So my quiz is not coming up. It doesn't want to come up for some reason.
Okay.
But that does not stop the show at all. So give me 1 second. I can fix that. Let's see. Let's see if I can fix it right quick. And let's see. Here we go. Let's make me host. All right. Let's see if I can pull it up now.
Okay, great.
If not, we'll work it out. Yes, so it doesn't come up, Ferguson.
Okay.
For whatever reason. I'm not for sure what happened with it. But I'll tell you, it was a great quiz.
All right.
But if you give me a second, I'm still going to pull it up. I'm gonna pull it up.
Okay.
And we'll do this. This is going to be an open book quiz.
All right.
Technology, as it would have it, does not want me to bring it up like I want to. So we'll make it easy. You can use the chat. We won't go against the person last night who asked if there was some gifts for this particular one, but we'll do it manually tonight. Is that okay, everybody?
That's good.
We're still going to get the great benefit out of it. So here we go. Question number one. You can just put it in the chat. Question number one, true or false? Almost twice as many women suffer from digestive health issues on a weekly basis compared to men. That's question number one. True or false? Twice as many women suffer from digestive health issues on a weekly basis compared to men. That is true or false. Just put it in the chat if you know the answer. Is it true or false? Put in the answer. All right, here we go. Question number two. You got 4 selections here. What are some common herbs for autoimmune diseases? What's some common herbs for autoimmune diseases? Ginger, garlic, elderberry, or feverfew? What are some common herbs for autoimmune diseases? That is a multiple choice question. I'll give you a hint. Only 3 of them correct, Pastor Ferguson. Only 3 can be correct. Ginger, garlic, elderberry, or feverfew. And finally, question number 3. This one here is a great one. What is considered our second brain?
Oh.
Did you know that one, Ferguson?
Well, I think I do.
Okay, let's see.
I was listening very closely last night.
Okay. All right, here it is. What's considered our second brain. Is it the feet?
Ah,
Is it the legs?
ah,
Is it the neck?
ah.
Or Pastor Ferguson, you say you were listening last night. What would that answer be?
Will you guys trust me to give the answer?
Don't know.
Huh? You all trust me? Okay, I'm gonna give it a shot.
Go ahead.
Give it a shot, Brother Jose.
All right.
It is the gut.
It is the gut. It is the gut. Yes, indeed.
That's what it is.
We wanted to see if you were listening, Pastor Ferguson.
Oh,
Hey.
no.
But
Hey.
Jose, you should see this chat, man. I mean, the room, the guests in the seminar room, they didn't hold off tonight. We got 35 responses.
Okay.
36 responses. Almost
Oh, Lord.
everybody in the room responded tonight. So
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, just so you know, on question number 3, the multiple choice, elderberry is not one of them. Elderberry is not one of them.
okay.
It was Feverview. So if you put elderberry, it wasn't one of them. But I'm sure if you question it, Dr. Rando can back me up on that. All right, wonderful people.
This was great.
I like this one. We got a lot more feedback, so maybe the next one we'll also do it like this one. But thank you so much. We'll see you again on Wednesday for our next quiz night.
Yes.
Okay, very good, very good, very good. That was a great quiz. Now it's time for our speaker, Dr. Marvin Randall. He's a medical doctor. He graduated from St. George's University in Grenada. He also holds a master's in public health and a master's in business association in healthcare management. He did 1 year of medical residency, and then he felt the call to become a medical doctor with a God-centered practice, and we are blessed that he did that. He's currently one of the medical providers at UC Pines, and as a direct result of accepting the call. At UC Pine, he enjoyed learning the natural, simple, and effective ways of treating disease and being a witness to the healing of only our great physician can give. I turn it over to you, Doc. Thank you for everything you're doing for us. Thank you.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Again, to God be all the glory. And apologies for last night. I was cutting in and out. Hopefully we'll have no issues tonight. And I just want to add about last night's presentation. If you have an understanding about the gut, you can also see that the foods that we eat can be detrimental and cause autoimmune disorders. One thing I forgot to tell you last night was many people have tried different diets, different food diets. Like if you ever heard of nightshades, nightshades are tomatoes, white potatoes, eggplants, and bell peppers. People have actually healed themselves of autoimmune disorders by coming off of nightshades. So that's something that I neglected to add last night, and something that you can try if you or a loved one has autoimmune disorders. That being said, tonight we're going to talk about herbs for sleep and stress, and this is strictly foods for herbs, foods and herbs for sleep and stress. Before we begin, let's just have a word of prayer. Kind and Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to approach your throne and ask you for your wisdom, your knowledge, understanding, and love. And I pray, Father, that this presentation will be an experience where we can come to you and receive all of that. Bless and guide us, Father, as I speak and as we listen, to hear your words and to be able to have the strength and the courage to follow. And I pray and ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, so herbs for sleep and stress. I'm thinking no one here is stressed, or everyone here is stressed.
We all have it.
I think we all have a. 1 second, let me just try to find this thing. All right. So yes, we all have stress, and sometimes stress can be a reason why we lose our sleep. But let's just talk about sleep first. And Psalms 127 verse 2, the King James Version reads, "It is vain for you to rise up early, to sit up late, to eat the bread of sorrows, for so he giveth his beloved sleep." So sleep is very important. The Bible talks about this. And this scripture talks about rising up early, sitting up late, and eating the bread of sorrow. Sounds like a stressful situation to me. And stressful situations, when we are stressed, we don't get the sleep that we need. And sleep is very important. And I hope you understand more about your sleep and take the necessary measures to get a good night's rest. And hopefully learn some herbs and foods that can help you to do that. So what is sleep? Sleep, I like this definition. It's not scientific, but I think it hits the nail on top of his head. It says sleep or slumber, which is a noun, is a natural and periodic state of rest during which consciousness of the world is suspended. And I think it goes well with the scripture we just read. When we are consciously thinking about the world sometimes, work, school, family, diseases, it can take our rest away, it can take our sleep away. But sleep is much more than what it reads here. Sleep is important in many things, for many things. And to start, there are different stages of sleep. There are many cycles, at least 5 cycles to sleep. And sleep is defined in the scientific world as it's a cycle that repeats itself from non-REM to REM. So you have 2 cycles, a non-rapid eye movement cycle, and that's broken down into 4 cycles, and the REM, the rapid eye movement cycle. And on a typical night, you cycle through these non-REM, REM cycles about 4 to 5 times. So non-REM it goes from light to deep sleep, and it's important for learning, memory, and storing new data. And REM is actually a dreaming phase where you get restorative and restful sleep. And I'll go more into that in describing the stages. Not to get too technical, but basically you see the 4 stages, and then it gets to the REM sleep, and then it goes back into the 4 stages, and then it gets back to the REM sleep. And that's what you do. You cycle through these things, and normally you have 3 to 5 different REM stages throughout the night. Well, in a typical natural restful night, you have 3 to 5 REM cycles per night. And it's been shown that sleeping helps to clean the brain. Researchers think that cerebrospinal fluid, or CSF, may flush out toxic waste and cleans the brain. And studies have shown that garbage clearance is hugely improved during sleep. So if you think about like you taking a shower, the brain is actually taking a shower when you sleep. Especially in REM sleep, they found that the cerebrospinal fluid, it washes out the brain. So a lot of toxins that build up during the day and the waste that build up during the day from the processing of each individual cell are actually washed out of the brain and goes to where it needs to be discarded from the body. But not only that, sleep is not only good for the brain, it's also good for the body overall. It physically restores your body. And sleep, and I'll talk about melatonin, but sleep is where melatonin, for instance, it dictates a lot of the restoration of your body. Melatonin, for instance, it stimulates a gene called the p53 gene. And the p53 gene is important for cancer detection and cancer, it shuts down cancer cells. So if you're not sleeping, you have a higher risk of cancers, but also diabetes and hypertension and obesity, all the diseases that we've been talking about, autoimmune disorders. And so sleep is very important. But sleep is also important, as we said before, for processing information and memorization. For your mood regulation is also important. It's strengthening your immune system. So it's a holistic sleep and diseases. For us to stave off diseases, we need sleep. We need a holistic lifestyle, which includes sleep as a determinant or something to prevent us from getting diseases. So what is stress? So this is about sleep and stress, and we're going to try to define what stress is before we go into what can be helpful for sleep and stress. Stress is the body's reaction to any change that it experiences, which requires an adjustment to response. The body reacts to these changes with physical, mental, and emotional responses. That's like the layman definition. Hans Selye he's a medical doctor from the 1930s, 1940s. He coined the word stress as a non-specific response of the body to any demand made upon it. So Hans Selye came up with the term stress. And what he saw was that people who stressed, they had a physiological response. So you have a stressor, for instance, a tiger chasing you or a dog chasing you, to be more realistic. A dog is chasing you and you have to mount up a fight or flight response. So the stressor then causes stress or the physical response of your body to make an effort to overcome that stressor. So I can either put up a fight against the dog or run away from the dog. And your body makes that response through hormones and through different ways to overcome that stressor. And it's good to know that there are internal stressors as well as external stressors. So a dog, for instance, or the lion or snake or whatever, is an external stressor. And internal stressor is something that you deal with on a daily basis from things from the past, things from prior experiences. You can deal with an internal stressor for over over your lifetime. It leads to fear, it leads to high expectations, negative talk of yourself, lack of control, perfectionism, but also loneliness or different things phobias, for instance, that can be an internal stressor that causes the stress response, even though the stressor isn't there. And it's something similar to this. So the normal stress response, and this is a God-given ability that we can overcome our stresses or stressors. Picture the bee, a bee or a wasp or something is trying to bite, or a mosquito. Let's make it realistic. A mosquito is trying to bite you, and you have a physiological stress response to the mosquito. And you can either run away from the mosquito or you can swat the mosquito. Your body has to make a choice, fight the mosquito or run away from it. And your body, your physiological response is to make the hormones and the necessary means to attack or run. But acute stress is good, where your body says, run away from this thing or fight this thing. But when the stressor is not there, the acute stress becomes chronic stress. And then this stress becomes an anxiety-ridden, it causes anxiety basically. And it continues even after the mosquito is gone. So are there any stressors in the world today? Well, there's a lot, especially COVID-19 and the news that we see and everything that goes around that revolves around COVID-19, like work or putting on a mask or getting vaccinated or families or what's going on with my family or symptoms and social distancing, but also the internal stresses as well. The fear that you can see people are going through, that's an internal stressor as well. And stress can affect our sleep. And when we stress, our stress hormone cortisol is increased or elevated. Cortisol is the general in the daytime, and it tells hormones, for instance, it tells hormones to make our heart beat faster. So when you're running away from a lion, for instance, or a dog, our heart has to beat faster to keep up with the demand on the body. Or, for instance, our blood glucose levels are increased when our cortisol is released. Some may know this as an issue with using steroids. Cortisol is a steroid hormone, and people who use steroids, they are prone to get diabetes and other issues. And same thing with when you have a stress or when you stress without a stressor, cortisol increases in your body, and you can actually get diabetes from this. You can get high blood pressure. You can get heart disease because your heart is beating faster because of this physiological response. So cortisol is good, but when you're stressing, it can actually be detrimental to our health. And it's good to know also that cortisol, like I said, is a daytime hormone, and melatonin is a nighttime hormone. So in the daytime, you need cortisol to overcome the stressors. You're going to work, you're facing your boss, you're driving a car, which can be a stressful situation. You have family issues, it can be a stressful situation. So you need cortisol to overcome these things in the daytime. But then at 9:30, cortisol starts to decrease. And at 9:30, melatonin starts to increase. And melatonin peaks at about 2:33 a.m. in the morning, in the morning. And cortisol is at its lowest at that time. And in the morning at 6 a.m., 6:30 a.m., melatonin starts to go down and cortisol starts to rise. So our body was made to have this pattern. But if melatonin is low at night, you won't get good restful sleep. And I'll talk more about that. And if cortisol is high, when it shouldn't be high, say 9:30 or 11 o'clock, if it's high around that time, then our body is in a stress mode and will not be able to sleep. So high cortisol levels can be detrimental to our sleep, and low melatonin levels can be detrimental to our sleep as well. So how do we get melatonin, and how do we stop cortisol? Well, the synthesis and secretion of melatonin is dramatically affected by light exposure to the eyes. The fundamental pattern observed is that serum concentrations of melatonin are low during daylight hours and increase to a peak during the dark. So you have to have a dark room for melatonin to be produced. If you have a night light on, if you have the bathroom light on or whatever, you hinder the amount of melatonin that you can make. So basically, turning off lights and turning off your brain is an important way that we can decrease cortisol and increase melatonin. And I'll speak more about that coming up. But also our foods that we eat can decrease cortisol and increase melatonin, with other valuable hormones that are important for our sleep. One thing that we can do to decrease our stress, to decrease our cortisol production, is to eat more fiber. And the Journal of Nutritional Neuroscience says that a high fiber diet may be linked to reduced anxiety, depression, and stress. So just by taking in more fiber during the day, and fiber is the same as eating more fruits and vegetables. Just by taking in more fiber during the daytime, we can reduce our stress, reduce our cortisol levels, and it also helps to increase our melatonin levels at night. But also we can also think about important components for sleep, like tryptophan, vitamin B6, serotonin, melatonin, and minerals as well. And these are good to stave off or to protect you, prevent insomnia. And we'll go through why these things are important in the next slides. For instance, tryptophan. Tryptophan, foods that are high in tryptophan, such as tofu, nuts and seeds like pistachios and peanuts, and all different types of fruits are really good and high in tryptophan. Now, tryptophan, it plays a role in the production of serotonin, which is the feel-good hormone like we spoke about yesterday. 95% of it is produced in your gut, but also that 5% is produced in our brain called the pineal gland. And the pineal gland produces serotonin, and serotonin then is converted to melatonin. So tryptophan plays a role in production of serotonin, a mood stabilizer, and melatonin as well, which helps to regulate sleep patterns. Niacin, which is a B vitamin, B3, and nicotinamide, also known as a vitamin B3. So basically, get more tryptophan for sleep, which creates more serotonin and melatonin, and also B vitamins are good for your sleep as well. And B6 is one of those B vitamins. Of some foods that are very high in B vitamins, think of sweet bell peppers, but also artichokes, artichoke hearts, sunflower seeds, sesame seeds, bananas, walnuts, and lentils. These are very high in vitamin B6. And B6 is actually important in the conversion of serotonin to melatonin. So if we don't have adequate B6, we won't have adequate melatonin and the conversion from serotonin.
Mm-hmm.
Now, serotonin is also an important precursor. Now, like I said, you can eat all the foods for serotonin and that has serotonin, but it won't cross the blood-brain barrier. The blood-brain barrier is very selective. So serotonin that's made in the pineal gland won't leave our brain, and serotonin that's made in our GI system will not pass the blood-brain barrier. So we need to make serotonin. And what's very important for making serotonin is sunlight. Sunlight is very important for making serotonin. So try to get as much sunlight as you can during the daytime to make as much serotonin in your pineal gland so you can get melatonin at night. Again, melatonin is the precursor of serotonin. So serotonin is actually converted into melatonin, and melatonin is good for your sleep. To get good serotonin, make sure you get a lot of sunlight during the daytime. Even in the sun, in the winters, you can get sunlight. To stand by a window in the sun, they can get good sunlight, and you can get 10 to 15 minutes of good sunlight, even in the winter times. And magnesium and other things like zinc and calcium are very good, but especially magnesium. Magnesium is the fourth most abundant electrolyte in our body. And magnesium helps to activate neurotransmitters like serotonin and melatonin, and that are responsible for calming the body and the mind. So more so than not, a lot of us are magnesium deficient, and you can actually use magnesium. You can eat foods for that gives you magnesium. Sorry, I skipped a slide. But foods like almonds, cashews, dates, Brazil nuts, pepitas, which are, I think it's a sort of, uh, I have to go back on that. Forgot what pepitas are. The sesame seeds, sunflower seeds, flax seeds, but also pumpkin seeds. I think pepitas are like seasoned sunflower seeds. Oh, I'm sorry, seasoned not watermelon, but seasoned um, pumpkin seeds. Excuse me. So you can have these foods increase your magnesium. But also, it's good for restless leg syndrome. So people who suffer from restless leg syndrome, you can actually eat some almonds, or you can take a teaspoon of magnesium citrate right before bedtime, at least an hour to 2 hours before bedtime. Magnesium citrate, 1 teaspoon at night. Don't overdose on magnesium because magnesium can have you have diarrhea and GI symptoms, but you can use that for um, symptoms like restless leg syndrome, but also to calm the mind and also migraines. It's also good for migraines. I think we spoke about this yesterday as well. And foods that are high in melatonin. Again, melatonin is good for sleep. If we don't have melatonin, we're not going to be able to sleep. Oats is very high. I think 150 millimeters, milliliters of it has a high dose of the daily dose of melatonin that you need in the daytime. Tart cherries is also important. Ginger is also important. They're actually doing studies on doing or taking ginger at nighttime, hot ginger tea at nighttime, and that helps people to sleep. Goji berries is very good. Nuts like pistachios again. Barley, rice is very high as well, and corn as well is high as well. So these things you can enjoy to increase your melatonin at night, and this increases melatonin crosses the blood-brain barrier. Unlike serotonin and other hormones, melatonin crosses the blood-brain barrier. So I can eat oats and actually stimulate good night's rest by having that melatonin cross the blood-brain barrier.
Mhm.
Sleep hygiene is also important. Things that are detrimental for good sleep. Caffeine. Caffeine keeps the brain awake. So try not to have caffeine at all, but especially right before bedtime because it will keep you awake and also disturb a good night's rest. Sugar, high glycemic food. So what you want to do, I recommended a intermittent fasting diet, which is 2 meals, 6 hours apart. So essentially, your last meal with the 18-6 um, intermittent fasting diet would be at 2, 3 o'clock, the latest. But if you were to have a snack, a light snack, try to have fruits that are very low in the glycemic scale. Like mangoes are very high. I love mangoes, but they're very high on the glycemic scale. Papayas, grapes are very high on the glycemic scale. You can have fruits like grapefruits or even kiwis. Kiwis are also good. They stimulate melatonin, so they're also good. And kiwis are more medium to high glycemic foods, but those are also important for building or stimulating our melatonin. Late night snacks. That's if you wake up at night, the last thing you want to do is eat because if your stomach doesn't rest, then your brain doesn't rest. We spoke yesterday about the brain gut connection. So if your gut is trying to digest foods, guess what? Your brain is not going to sleep. Even though you get sleep, you're gonna wake up unrefreshed because it was working while your stomach is working or your GI system is working. Inappropriate sleep hygiene. So you want to turn off all lights at least an hour, 30 minutes to an hour before bedtime. Especially cell phones and computer screens and iPads, iPods, whatever you have, you want to turn those lights off at least 30 minutes to an hour before it's bed. And don't take pills, even melatonin. Do not take melatonin pills. A lot of people There's a lot of reports out there that even taking melatonin does not give you good sleep. And the thing is, melatonin will give you sleep. You take the pill, it will give you sleep, but it does not give you the REM sleep that you need. So you get non-REM all throughout the night, but the REM sleep, you miss it. And remember, REM is good for refreshing sleep. So you take melatonin, you get 8 hours of sleep, but you wake up groggy and you don't feel like you've had a restful night because you missed your REM sleep. Some herbs for sleep. I mentioned ginger, peppermint, lemon balm, lemongrass, lavender is also good. Hops. Hops they use to make beer, but they ferment the hops to make the beer. But the original plant or the components in hops are very important for sleep. Can be used for sleep. Kudzu is another sleep agent. Vervain and gotu kola. Now, gotu kola, I would use this as the last resort because gotu kola is known as it can actually cause you to have a lot of excitement in your brain that you actually start seeing things if you take a lot of it. So that gotu kola is one of the last things, but it can help people who are suffering from severe insomnia to get a good night's rest. And don't neglect the common herbs that you can use, like rosemary teas or thyme. You can use that for sleep as well. Lavender, I mentioned that. You can use these, and it's important. You can, if you have the space, you can plant an herb garden, and it's very helpful. You just go outside and pick your own herbs and get a good night's rest from the herbs that you plant yourself. Skullcap is another one that's good for sleep and stress. It has a lot of flavonoids, and we spoke about flavonoids the first night. The scutellarian is one of the flavonoids, and it specifically has calming bitter effects. So calms your nerves basically. It can be bitter, but even through that, it calms the nerves and the brain overall. Apigenin and another one, luteolin, are antispasmodic. So it helps to calm the muscles and the nerves. It's basically like a tranquilizer. So Skullcap is very good for calming nervous tension, but also decreases stress and anxiety. And passion flower. I was fortunate enough to see passion flower, and these things are very beautiful. They have different colors: red, purple, blue. These things are very, very beautiful. God is a God of beauty, and just seeing these flowers, I mean, you can tell that God is an artist. But not only is he an artist, he cares for our sleep and to help us with our stress. And passion flower has a lot of flavonoids. And these flavonoids in passion flower are sedatives, and they have soothing properties as well. And not only do they have, can they help with sleep, but they can also lower your blood pressure, prevents tachycardia, and also insomnia. So if you have persistent sleep issues, you can use passion flower to get a good night's rest. It's also used safely to decrease nervous tension and restlessness, decrease muscle spasms, as you said before, headaches and migraines, irregular sleeping patterns, and irritability, among a lot of other things. So you can use passion flower, and most of these things you can add them with like ginger. Add them with ginger or lavender, just to have the added benefits. Chamomile. Chamomile has apigenin, just like the skullcap, which is the flavonoid. And this is also good for sleep and stress. And apigenin is known as an antispasmodic, meaning it will decrease muscle tension, but it also has sedative effects. It helps people sleep. And chamomile is also known to increase serotonin in the brain, so it promotes the it promotes the pineal gland to make serotonin, and then the pineal gland through serotonin then makes melatonin, which you need to sleep. So overall, it promotes restful sleep. St. John's wort is also good for sleep and stress. Again, it's another beautiful plant, and it has a another flavonoid called hyperforin, and this inhibits reuptake of serotonin, norepinephrine, and dopamine, and these also play an important role in our sleep or our sleep cycle. But St. John's wort is actually used to decrease the risk of depression and anxiety, which we'll talk about more tomorrow. And if you ever heard of selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs, SSRIs are what they use in the medical field for to block the uptake or to block the breakdown of serotonin in the brain. And what that does, serotonin is, again, the feel-good hormone. So if you block the uptake of serotonin, then you have a decreased risk of anxiety, stress, and depression, and all these things. But St. John's wort was the original SSRI. So St. John's wort is very important when it comes to sleep, but also stress, anxiety, depression, and anxiety, which we'll talk more about later. But overall, because it inhibits uptake of serotonin, you have more serotonin in your brain to promote restful sleep. So you can drink a tea, for instance, of St. John's wort for a good night's rest. Valerian, and the Valerian is very, very, very potent. It has something called valerianic acid, and some of its other derivatives are known to be sedatives and antispasmodics. And they help to reduce tension, anxiety, and overexcitability of your brain. And it's very effective for insomnia, and it also produces a natural healing sleep. But because it's very, very, very potent, you need to cycle off of it for every 2 weeks. It's also known for PTSD, anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder. This is very potent herb. But if you take too much of it, it can actually cause the opposite. So the warning is to take it every 2 weeks, cycle off of it for 1 week, and then go back on it for 2 weeks, cycle off of it for 1 week, and then do that over and over again, rather than being on it for a lifetime. But the thing is with herbs, like I mentioned before, try not to be on these things for too long. You want to use them as an aid, but not a crutch in the long run. And my closing scripture is taken from Matthew 11, verse 28 to 30. It says, "Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find rest unto your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." In Desire of Ages, it is said that this rest is the cure for all physical, mental, and spiritual ills. So as our sleep shows us that it's necessary for our physical and mental health, the rest that Jesus Christ gives us is also important for physical, mental, but also spiritual health as well. So I pray that you will get the rest you need, the 7 to 8 hours of rest that you need, but also the spiritual rest that you can only find through Jesus Christ. Thank you. And I hope you're enlightened, and please feel free to ask questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Randall. What another fascinating presentation. It's interesting. I just mentioned to my wife not long ago, I said, I wonder why we sleep. You know, you always hear it as a child, you need to get your sleep because you're growing and stuff like that. But I just find it absolutely fascinating that sleep actually has the same mental purging effect or cleansing effect as though we were taking a shower. So our brains are structured in such a way that when we sleep, life's cares and a whole lot of things are being washed away to prepare us to face another day. Did I kind of understand it correctly?
Yes. Yes.
And then to hear, because everything is synthesized in our society. We extract these wonderful ingredients from herbs and then nature, and then we turn them into a little pill. But to just think that there are natural things that we can do to help to calm the body down and to assist us in getting rest. Thank you very much, Dr. Randall. Again, we have a couple of questions here. We did great on time this evening, so I'm going to take them. Now, one person has asked, is there any negative effect we should be concerned about with taking herbs with hypertension medication? That's number one.
Yes. One, some of them are very potent, and they can actually lower your blood pressure to a point where you don't want to be lowered. So again, I like to preface, in taking herbs, please either visit your medical providers and ask them how effective and how safely you can use these things with your medications if you are taking medications. But they can essentially lower your blood pressure to a point where it can be detrimental and cause strokes and heart attacks. So you want to be very careful with this. But of course, in using herbs in a safe way, you can eliminate or reduce the amount of medications you're taking.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And I think that kind of answered the extenuating question. Any kind of herbs that we focus on in a primary fashion for treating a specific ill or an ailment, while we are already under a physician's care, it's always advisable to talk to that primary care physician about that. Okay, someone else has a great question out here. And that question is, can you take magnesium citrate and then drink chamomile tea before bed?
Oh, yes. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Okay. So magnesium citrate, again, it helps to modulate or help to promote good night's rest because it helps serotonin, melatonin, tryptophan, these things to do their jobs in a more effective and efficient way.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Doc. Could not see the slide halfway through this presentation. Was that all of the slides, questioner, or was that one particular slide? So what we like to do with these presentations, if at all possible, is to direct you to our YouTube site, and you'll be able to get all of these presentations, and you'll be able to also see these slides reviewed and also get screenshots. We're working on our closing presentation on Friday. Can you believe we're at this point already? We have 2 more presentations, and then we will be done. So we are talking with the doctor on the side, and to see how he will manage his last presentation, and perhaps that will present an opportunity for us to spend a little bit more time in fielding direct questions from you. We have not taken it off the table. Participant who have been with us, someone say, are there going to be gifts associated with these wonderful quiz that we're giving? We're going to have a little talk about that on this side, and we may have a surprise for you. But again, we are working on certificates of completion. If you are there, our tech team, someone is asking for the YouTube site information. If you could put that in the chat, working on your certificates. And then remember, we won't be back tomorrow or Tuesday. We will be back on Wednesday, and then Friday will be it. We are planning just to close out a celebration graduation on the 31st. That will be at 4 o'clock, and then we will issue the certificates. So of course, you know, everything is virtual, so we will issue those certificates electronically, and then you'll have your very nice certificate. You can print it off and then frame it so that everyone will know that you went through this wonderful 9-part series on discovering these wonderful things in nature pharmacy. So remember, as much content as has been given, that is really designed to just stimulate us toward doing further research into nature's laboratory on our own to discover some things. And one of the wonderful things, I think that the big take-home message is opening night's message, that wonderful rainbow. And if you stay close to that rainbow and a balanced approach to herbal enjoyments on a systematic basis, I think we will have unlocked an important key. All right, so here we are. I want to say to you, as I have said to you each night, there are so many thank yous and appreciations, Dr. Randall, that's hitting the chat. The people have thoroughly enjoyed, obviously, by the excellent attendance that we have been getting each night. Someone has just said this has been a very insightful. We give God thanks for his love through everything he has given us. So those are the kind of responses we have been getting. All right, beloved, I wish above all things that you may prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. All right, we're ready to put on the screen now, rather sadly, our last 2 presentations. And on Wednesday, July the 26th, that is going to be herbs for mental health. And then on Friday, our final presentation, food for the soul. And then on the 31st, we have actually the 31st listed, but that is supposed to be the graduation. So we'll talk about that and to see, make sure we're on the same page in terms of our closing ceremony. All right, everyone, have a great evening. God bless you, and what a joy to see each of your faces again. Good night, everyone. Blessings, blessings to you. All right, blessings, everybody.